Okay, it's time for the chain, so forgive my lap, but I take these very, very small. This is probably like a .6 or .5 millimeter. I use this card that I've marked, but with the New Havens it's kind of nice because you got these lines so you can figure out where you are to be parallel across this thing, so they look really good when you're done. It's going to take a while. I'm only going to show you one. I use the left hand to kind of maintain an index with the drill. These are so brittle, they break so easily. So after I get started, I'll pull them out quite often to clean them. You just don't want to push hard because that's all it takes and they'll snap. And if you're unlucky, you won't be able to retrieve them. So it just takes a while. You really got to be patient. Okay, so then you get your hole, and I'm going to kind of go forward a little bit here with this. I leave kind of a little area here that I can use to pick these things out, because they have a tendency, I've cut them so good that they're tight. And what I've been using on these rascals to put them together are the ends of my resistors, and I want the hole to be a little bit tight, but not so tight I can't get it in. Once it's in, then you're going to have a hole on the other side. You just push it through, then bring it back and put it in. Then you can bow it down, and it should stay. But if not, you can go inside, and you'll see just a little bit, I think. I'm trying to figure out where we are. There's the end right there, and you can put just a drop on one side of the canopy glue, and let that set, and it'll keep that thing in there. It won't go anywhere. So that's how that's done. I've got 7 more holes to drill, and then I'll put the wires in and show you the results. Okay, so let's see what it takes to make a fiber optic light that we can use. Now, what I'm installing in this one is, and they're already gone, is basically this type of system, and the bulb will go in another sleeve, and it fits right over this one, coming up to the end of the fiber optics. If I was going to do a 3-way, I kind of did it the same way. The bulb is in there. There's a tube that goes over it with the fiber optics in it. Okay. What I'm going to show you is how to do it this way, where the fiber optics are put together, and then there's a bulb put on, and then the fiber optics, which has been wrapped in shrink, fits inside. Then you shrink this down to finish the job. So we'll turn on the soldering iron so it'll be hot. We're ready for it. Make sure it's clean. I need a couple lights. I need a green and a red. I'm only going to do one, so whatever pops up first, and here's a red. So that's good. These are all 3 volt, which works out good. So we'll pull out a red, maybe. Ta-da! Okay. Excuse me. What I don't see is a particular size that I will need. I need a size that will fit over the bulb. And this one just barely gets over it. It's going to come in just a little bit. Then we're going to leave some off the end of it. And it's not super critical. I think this is about the same. So if you don't like that color, this one might be a little bit tighter. It's actually too tight. So this is the guy. You want it just over the end, because you're going to have to heat it there. And then go up about a ½ inch. ½ inch or more. I think I'll do a little bit more than that. Let's go up a little bit further. Ta-da! So there's the crimp. There's the end of the bulb. And we'll go up about this far. Okay. So that gives a little bit more to work with here. Now, I'm going to use a soldering iron, make sure it's clean. And I'm going to shrink this. I know where the bulb is. It's right here. I don't want to close it. I want to go right around that flange on the bulb. And that's about it. And then get in behind it and just close it down behind the bulb. Keep it in place. And that's it. So if you do it right, the bulb is pretty much... Okay, I lost my computer there, or my camera there for a minute. So I can see the bulb in there, so I know I'm okay. So now I take some fiber optics that I've kind of covered up. And what I want to do is, it's been glued together with canopy glue on this end, right here. And it's a clean cut. But what I want to do is put it up to light, and I want to take a look and see wherever it is, if it's giving me the luminance that I need. I hope you can see it. And it is. Now I can take the iron and I can actually heat the end to make it a little bit larger and kind of clarify it like a lens. So that did just a little bit, very little. So let's see if it really helped any. So it's still nice and bright, but they're the same. That's the most important thing. Now I'm going to put a piece of small shrink over it. It does fit. And I only need to go up again about that 1/2 inch. And then cut it off. And get it right up to the end of the fiber optics. And then go ahead and shrink it. Don't stay on it very long, because that fiber optics will melt right away. So just kind of hit it and get off of it. And once it's stuck there, you can just kind of come back, but watch out coming back, because if you come off the shrink, you're going to be sorry, because this will just bend and be worthless then. Actually, the light will bend with it, but it's not what you're looking for. So just be careful, take your time. Don't let it get all that hot. Now we take another piece of shrink. Now we can, as we do this, we can make sure that we can still get in here and to get up and hit the bulb, and you can feel it. So now we take a piece of blue or orange, doesn't matter, but just one size larger. I think this blue is smaller. Yeah, there we go. So just one size smaller. And cut it off. And again, just bring it up until it's right on the end of the fiber optics. And shrink it down. You can be a little more aggressive now because you got another piece of shrink underneath it to protect it. But don't get too careless. Heat does flow through this stuff. And once again, you can kind of see if it's going to fit in there. Still a little big. So the end is kind of pushed out, so we're going to try and get it down just a little bit. As we go, you can make sure that you still got good value out of this thing. Now we go to the little bit larger blue and find the end of it and cut it off. Try and make the end square. Okay. Get it right up to the end again. And it is kind of important that you make sure this is tight on here. And you'll see why in a minute. Okay. So now that goes in and it's become snug up where the bulb is. So that's good enough. Now on the bulb, what we're going to do is we're going to hook on some wires, and we're going to leave them full length. So this is going to be a back wire, so it's going to be a little bit long. Not horribly long, but long enough. So we can get away with this. Here's my red. And here's my blue, just to keep me honest. I know I just got out of the area on that last one, so sorry about that. Don't have to be exactly the same length, but it's kind of nice if they're close. Okay. And blue. And we'll strip off their ends and expose a little bit of copper wire. We're going to need a little bit of flux. We're going to twist them a little bit just to keep them from fraying out. Try to get them straight as possible. I have to keep looking back at the camera, see if I can see my hand. A little bit of flux. A little bit of solder. And they're tinned. Cut them a little bit down a little bit, don't need that much. Okay. Now we'll solder these guys on. Red goes on the short one. Okay, and the blue the tweezers are a good heat sink, so the heat doesn't get up into the boob. And of course I did the wrong one, but I'll still admit that I did that wrong, so you know how it should have been done. That one got a little hot, we'll give it a little more solder. Solder is good. Okay. I'm going to clean that off because I have another use for it here in a second. Okay. Now I need some red and black shrink. And they need to be about that long. The wrong one. I suppose if I put on my reading glasses I'd be a lot better at this. They're sitting right there in front of me. But would I miss a challenge? Okay, then the red one. You can tell this wouldn't take that long if I was doing it right or had depth perception. Okay. Get these over the ends, maybe. That red one looks iffy. Really iffy, but there it goes. And it doesn't want to go in like the other one did, maybe. But that's okay. We'll just shrink these around their solder joints and they'll stay on. Now you can just take this and put it inside of here. You can feel the ball, but it'll feel solid. Now you want this to stay square. So if it's leaning one way, start there. But just go around it. And it's one unit now. So now I've got a back one. And that's all there is to it. You can do it a lot of different ways. That's just the way I've kind of developed over the time I've done this. And I hadn't done one for quite some time, so I kind of reverted back to one of the other methods. But I was also using ones that I'd made up before. So I hope that helps. I hope you can see what I was doing. I'll review it again. If it's not, I'll redo this thing, but I think that should have been okay. Okay, it's been a couple days. Excuse me, I had to recover from the grandsons. They decided to take over the room and Grandpa. So anyway, so now what I'm going to do is punch the holes in where these little lights are. I think you can see them. And to do that, I use this Dremel, and this is really critical work. But all I'm going to do is make this parallel to the surface, and bring it down just a smidgen. I mean, I'm just barely kissing this. And then the other side. You want to try and get it as flat as you possibly. I wasn't paying attention. I ran out of memory. But anyway, using a finger vise, once you've got those squared off, you have, really looks like a little indentation, but it's not. But you take these drills, and this is the size basically of the fiber optics, and then you can position it and then very carefully drill it. I drilled these out thinking I was being filmed, but anyway, take your time, and as you start to get a little bit of buildup, pull it back out and get that buildup off of it, and just be very, very patient. Then comes the fun part of installing the fiber optics. Installing the fiber optics. Now these are basically about the same size. Now this one looks kind of nasty. So what I try and do is cut them off the exact same length at an angle, which means I won't get them quite to the exact same length, obviously. But we'll get as close as we can, but it's got to be a clean cut so you can get through the inside of these things. So taking some long pliers or tweezers, and I don't know about you, I never have found a pair that kind of hold their own. The holes are right underneath the window, so you can use that kind of as a guide, and then that makes this a little bit easier to get started. so we'll double this guy. Okay, then pull this one back and try and figure out how to get it in. With the other one. I don't always have this much trouble, and sometimes I have a lot more trouble than this. But let's see what we can do here. Because the hole is right there, and now it's through. Okay, once you get them both through, you're pretty well got it made. Now, I already did the other end, so I'm going to show you what happens if, to bring these in, you want them out of the way. If you brought them all the way in so this clears, it's really a little bit too close to where the headlight's going to be. So what I do is I'll notch this. I always want to be able to get these off again, so I want to notch this so I can get this white part that holds the fiber optics into this notch I made right there. So you can see I still have to do this one down here. So I'll do that with the Dremel, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how I fix these up. Okay, and clean out the debris, because you don't want it falling out later, and it probably won't anyway. Okay, so then you have that one done, and it fits just like so. So now, again, they got to be the same length, because you got to have the same amount of tension. And you can see these two are kind of bent in different directions. So if you're lucky, you can do this without pulling them out, but try and get them so they're going to be the same tension when you're all done with this. And then what I do is I want to cut them. I got to turn on my soldering iron because it's going to be next. And I make it pretty hot. So we're going to do a little trial and error here. This is where I want it. Right here. Right about here. So cut it off as clean as you can. Oh, excuse me. This dry desert. So this one's a little bit longer, maybe too much longer. So I'm going to trim it again. In fact, I'm going to trim them both back a little bit. Okay. Now if you can get away with this, pull this up and push it forward. And get them out.
Call from cell phone empty. Call from cell phone empty.
Okay. They're really, really close. And now the fun part is going to be, I hope I've been staying in frame here. It doesn't look like it, but hopefully. Once the soldering iron gets really, really hot, I'm going to show you how I get these things. Okay, once the soldering iron is hot, you want to, and they got to be the same size, but just take the back part, get close, try and be as perpendicular as possible. Watch out you don't touch anything else. And you can change the direction, but you're going to make these about the size of a pinhead. This one needs to be a little bit larger. Okay. You want to look at them from almost every direction to make sure they're really the same. Get a good backdrop. Then we'll see how good we did here on this one. You pull it back in and put it back in this little nest that you made. And that basically holds them. So it shows me that this one's still a little bit too long. That one's nice and tight. And this one's a little bit loose, and it'll bounce out just a tad. But maybe not enough that I can get away with it. So what I'll probably do is just pull this over like so and glue it down. So I hope you can see, they basically stick out just a little bit. I hope you can see this. And then it just nests in there. I lucked out, I think, on this one because it's just about perfect. I can probably bring it back a little bit more, make it a little bit tighter, and I can. And then I'll glue this part down, this white part. That way if I have to change the light out later, I can just pull it off very easily. So I'll do the other end same way. Okay, so once you get them in place, and I get out my handy dandy canopy glue, and it don't take much. That's that end. You just let it cure for a day or so. Same thing on this end, very, very carefully here. That one's quite loose. So this is going to take a little bit more to get this to really go where I want it, I do believe. Okay, on this rascal I had to kind of revert back to an old process I used, where I use a couple of my handy dandy, really high value clothespin tools. And then again we're just going to hockey puck this guy at some point in time. And then let it cure for some time. I think you can see that it doesn't really get underneath it, so we take another expensive specialized tool, toothpick, and we make sure that it's really bonding to where we want to go. Now this other end, I've had to come back on a couple occasions and kind of retighten it. And I'm going to have to do it again, so I'm going to probably use the clothespins back here as well. So we'll just put this guy in place, kind of, maybe. I don't want it in the glue, obviously. But I do want it where it's going to do some good. And it just happens I have some more of these handy dandy high value tools. And so we're going to, I guess you can see what I'm doing. Put this guy in place now. And they're both fairly tight, but they could be tighter. So we're going to push them back and see what that did. And it didn't do a thing. That didn't help either. So let's see what we're doing here. It was better before I started messing with it. Oh, you can see it came off, huh? Didn't like that. I hate having to do all this rework stuff, as you can imagine. So let's get a hold. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but I'm making a mess. That's what I'm doing. And that is still real loose while the other one is really tight. Yeah, this one will pop out. No, this one will too. So let's get our high value tool in place and see if that doesn't help. If it sticks, it won't, especially when I'm working down here in my lap, so I was trying to be kind to you guys. But anyway, you can see the clothespins are in place. You can see where the board is. You can see these are fairly taut. They could be tighter. But the thing is, when the body part goes in, it's going to push up on this a little bit. Just a little bit at the ends. And that'll kind of draw it in a little tighter, but it's not going to go anywhere. That's the good part. Just is not going to go anywhere. So this now can be set aside. And we'll revert back to this guy. So this is one of the longer ones. Usually I like these only be about this long and hook in. This one goes way up here. I could actually turn the decoder around if I wanted to. So what we're going to use is a Digitrax SDH 166D. And we've already taken the harness out, converted it to a long harness. It's actually too short the other way. See, these have been programmed by Yankee Dabbler. This goes off in this end, of course, and the sound end is here. Now, the sound end has a lot of wires we don't need. And that includes the speaker. I can take the speaker wires out and take wires I'm not going to use, because about the only wire I really want is the yellow. Now I could use the brown. Excuse me. Okay, the brown wire is one that goes pin is 3. F4 is yellow, and I use that for the coach lights. Then you kind of run out of options. You've got either F4 or F3. Now you could use F4 and hook the interior lights and the exterior lights, but a lot of times you're going to have the exterior lights off while the car's parked, and you still want the you want the classification lights on when you don't want the other lights on. So that will work. So you need the brown wire, you don't need the green wire, and we can pull the speaker wires out. Well, let's do this. We're going to use the yellow and brown. So the blue wire, purple I guess in this case, or blue, whichever one it is, but they're side by side. But the blue wire goes to the capacitor, so we got to be careful. But the red wire is fair game, which is right next to the brown wire. So anyway, I'm going to pull those out and we'll come back and I'll show you how I hook them up. Okay, so now it's prepared. The brown wire is still in. The yellow wire is still in. This red wire came out and replaced the red wire for the speaker. And then this dark, whatever color it's supposed to be, because this looks blue to me, so this is probably purple circle, it replaced the black speaker wire. Make sure they're really secure. Once you pull one out, put one back in, you got to really make sure you got these little tabs really depressed back in good, because they come out at the absolute wrong time. So this could actually be put back in the decoder if you want. Make sure it is in all the way. Now you could do the other one too if you wanted to, but it doesn't really make much sense at this point. Now here comes some of the fun part. This blue wire came off of the lights down below. It's got to be hooked into this blue wire. And if you cut it off, it's going to be shorter. So you can actually probably try and just strip the insulation off of it and see if that works. And then strip the insulation off this and wrap it around and solder it together. Then you can use this lead to pick up the other wires that are coming off. This blue wire, of course, attaches here, so the headlight and backlight are okay, but the interior lights and the classification lights are going to require a blue wire. So I don't always have really good luck doing this. So I'm going to turn it off so I don't have to beep out some words, and then we'll come back and see how it looks if I get it set up. If I have to cut the wire, I've got to cut the wire. That's no big thing. Okay, so the day has finally come. I've joined the two leads together for the classification lights. Again, it gets the brown wire, and it is already prepared to be soldered. So let's join these two, 3, however many there are. I found over time it's kind of important to keep the lengths of the wires equal as best you can. I need to put on my reading glasses, I think. It really helps with depth perception. So, I shall do that after the fact. Okay, that's a good joint. Then bring down your heat shrink over it to protect it. And after we test it, we'll shrink those, but not until. The blue wires, of course, have got to come over, and again, keep everything as about the same length as you can. It seems kind of strange, but that's just kind of how it works. So I just kind of pull them up and see if they're as close. Yeah, so they're still pretty much the same length. So these guys here, I try not to keep any more wire than I have to, but I want enough that I can kind of get away if I have to do it again. So strip them down a little bit. And twist them together again. Big old fat fingers and little bitty wires just make for an adventure. And again, I like using my clothespins for so many different things, and the difference between them and fingers is they're not soft. Okay. Got just probably enough solder on here to get away with this. I think I'll twist these a little bit more, or a little bit in any essence of the word. Okay. I'm going to do a better job than that. I don't like frayed ends. Okay. I'm going to freshen up the solder. Okay. Put a piece of shrink on. It really doesn't matter what color you use. I've just, aircraft mechanic and an engineer, I just kind of got to the point that I try and use the right colors. I suppose we could say that. Okay. Okay, this guy's, he's okay. Then we'll take this turkey, and now we got enough solder left. Well, I'm going to give it a little more anyway. Okay, nice joint. Again, let's make sure it's not going to just come apart. Again, bring the shrink up over it. Okay. The only thing we haven't wired up are the speakers. So we have a red speaker wire here. And a green speaker wire here. And these wires are all quite long, so we're going to shorten them somewhat because they just don't need to be that long. I'd also recommend you be careful when you're moving this around because you may pull the wires off of the capacitor. So just try not to jerk the capacitor if you can help it. Okay. A little twist. Looks like I need to come up just a little bit to kind of help you out here. Like I said, I hate when I look at this thing and find out that it's a lot of talking, no video, so to speak. Okay, dokies. Got a clean point, some clean solder. Okay. Now I was smart enough to go ahead and do the ends of the speaker wires when I put them in. And now all I got to do is clean them up a little bit, twist them. Ta-da! Flux. And tin. And same with this guy. We're going to flex it and tin it. And put on a little bit of shrink. Again, it's not necessary, it's just me, but I kind of like red on red and black on anything else. I messed this one up. I did indeed. First time I took too much wire with it, so I have some scraggly ends. Okay. Now we'll take the red one, bring it over here, take this red one and cut a little bit off of it. And a little more solder. Now the question is that a good joint? Not really. But then the question is, will it work? Because it's good enough to hold, and it works. And so now, we need to do this one. And we need a little black. Already got it on there. All I gotta do is look. Bend that in that direction. Okay, a little more solder. Okay. It's early in my day. My coffee hasn't worn off yet, so a little shaky. But what the heck? Ta-da. Okay, so now we're on the track. Make sure nothing else is. Make sure the track is clean as we can make it. Look around, double check, double check. Okay, everything's hooked up. So the way we turn this on is it's on the tracks, it has power, but for whatever reason, you have to hit either delete 1 or enter 1 to get it to start up. So here's the loud side. So if you can see my finger, can you see my finger? Oh, you can see my finger. I'm going to turn on the backlight. There we go. I'm going to hit 4 and turn on the interior lights. Now if you can see my finger again, you should see a red light. I don't know if you can or not. And that's 3. And on the front end, let me see if you can see. Maybe. Let's do this. On the front end, and I'll zoom in a little more. If you can see the shell, I'm going to hold my finger out. I'm going to turn the lights off. So now when I hit 3, I don't know if you can see it or not. I think you can see it inside more than anything else, but the green lights are on. But you do get the coupler. So that's no big thing, because you're going to turn them on and then forget about it. To change directions, you get the headlight. It'll go forward. If it didn't have something holding it back, then it'll go backwards. Okay, it's being held. So we're going to turn all the lights off. And unfortunately you can't turn it off, but you can make it quiet. And I'm going to see if I can get the shell on it. And then we'll take a look at it as it operates. But it is wired, it's all done. I'm telling you, I've never seen this canopy glue take so long to cure. Oh, I do have 2 more things to do. I got to put drivers in it, so I'll do that. That's no big thing. Just I take a couple, usually 100s, standing men that look like they're able to drive something like this, and put them in again with the canopy glue, and then we'll just go from there, and we'll put it together. So, be just a minute. Okay, so let's see what we got here now. Let's see if everything works. She's all done. See the front end. Let's start it up. I'll just stick it in forward for a moment. Turn on its headlights. And turn on, well, they're already on. Ta-da. So we'll turn on the passenger area lights. It's in forward. I can't hardly get back far enough. So again, on step 1, it doesn't want to go anywhere, so I'm going to contact him and ask him what happened, because it should be going really slow. When you hit step 2, it just takes off like a rabbit. Well, it should have. I see any little problem. try it again. So when you hit step 1, get nothing, hit step 2. So something's in the bind. So it works. Let's take a look at the back end. I'll put it in reverse. And the other lights will be on already. And they are. So now to put it on eBay. I hope you got some help out of this. They are kind of a little bit of a complex process to do, but I think it's worthwhile. You get everything on it just about. You can't change the color of the lights on the classification, but you do get classification lights that do work. I think it's pretty neat, and the inside lights work really great. And again, on the R2s and 3s, you don't really have as big a deal as you do with the ones which basically show almost all the inside operations. This shows the motor housing in there, which is not good, but the 3s don't show any of that. They only have 6 windows, so they're just back to here. So they show a good passenger compartment without but that's not a big thing as far as I'm concerned. So, like I said, I hope you got some good out of it. Hope it helps you out if you want to do one of these yourself, and kind of gives you an understanding of how to wire in the classification lights on an RDC. So, thanks for watching.